I'm no longer a slave to fear.
Real Cuff Radio is about to begin.
I am a child of God. I'm no
Everybody
longer
loves a hero.
slave to fear.
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I am a child.
Welcome to Real Cuff Radio. This is Sandra, and today Todd and Julie we'll all be interviewing an international cook and the creator of Mexico in My Kitchen. She's also a blogger, has a YouTube channel. So, Julie, say hi.
Hello.
Todd will be with us shortly. And Mely Martinez, we are so glad you're with us today. How are you today?
So happy to join you. Really, really excited.
Yes, well, we want to hear your whole story from how you got started. So we'll let you begin however you want to begin, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm so happy to talk to you. As a blogger, I just didn't mean it to be what it becomes today. I just wanted to have a place where I could write the recipes that I made at home for my son, because we live in a world now that we didn't have when we were growing up. Now our kids have friends from other countries, from other cultures. The internet has made that possible. And kids travel all over, and you don't know where are they going to end, who are they going to marry. When my son was, I think like 11 or 12, I think when he was 8 years old, I started thinking about that, and I was thinking of writing a book. And I think I just wrote down like 2 recipes, and I stopped there. And people at church sometimes ask me when we have the potlucks, why don't you write a book of all your cooking? It's so good. But I was just too lazy. And then with the years, I belonged to a lot of cooking forums online, and I like to participate, sharing recipes. And then I met a lady from my hometown that she has a blog, and we start emailing recipes and pictures. Oh, I cooked this today, and she said, oh, I cooked this, and then she said, why don't you start a blog? And I was thinking, well, that could be an idea, but my English is not as good, and I wanted to do it in English because even though my son speaks English and Spanish, maybe he married someone that doesn't speak Spanish, so I wanted to have a kind of like universal language, and English is a universal language. That's why I started writing the blog in English. And I made it for him. And when I write a recipe, I try to explain the things like if I was talking to him so he could understand and recreate the recipe. So funny because now a lot of people send emails and say, my husband missed the food of his mom, and now I'm cooking your recipes and he's so happy. Or somebody say, my mom passed away and I never learned to cook, and now I'm learning through your blog. So I never thought that something that I start for my son is helping other sons and other daughters. So that makes me very happy.
Who does all the videoing for you? Is that your family, your son, your
my son does the video. Yeah, he is now 23 years old, so he helps me with that.
That's excellent.
The visual pictures of your recipes are so good.
Yeah, it has been a learning process. At the beginning, I still don't know how to use the camera, but I have been learning little by little over the years, because I realized that people paid a lot of attention to the food, the presentation, and the quality of the picture. With the years, I've been trying to learn a little bit to make people feel that they can make it. It's easy when that's what I like to post, the step-by-step process most of the time, so people can see and follow along. And the final picture, I want them to feel that they are sitting at a table and looking at that plate.
That's wonderful.
Like a table, like they are in their home, and they are in their home with their 1 tortillas and their drink. So that's what I envision when I take a picture. I want them to feel that they can do it and that they can sit there and they can have the same meal at the table. It's a long process.
What is your favorite recipe?
My favorite recipe would be mole poblano. It's a little complicated, but because it has at least a recipe that I make have like 17 ingredients. Some recipes have more. That's the one I learned from one of my aunts that lives in Miraculous. I like the process. It's like you're making chemistry when you are cooking and frying and toasting and grinding, and then you fry it again and you let it simmer. A whole thing of ingredients, when you combine them, create something so tasty and so delicious that you can stick your finger there and lick it, and it's so good. It's like a reward when you all that labor, because it's a lot of labor and time to cook it. But when it finally does, you say, "Oh my God, this is really worth it." That's one of my favorite meals to cook and to eat. I find like a little bit therapeutic to be cooking. It's like when you are also making bread. When I doing bread and kneading the dough, I think I'm not relaxing. That would be my favorite food.
Your favorite, Mely? When my husband and I were looking at the other night, I had not showed him your website. I've been looking at it for months and months. And he said, well, you haven't made anything like that. He was getting excited. He also was born in Mexico, and his mother used to cook like that. And he said, oh, when are you going to start cooking some of those things? So I think I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, that's my favorite food to cook. But you know what? For everyday cooking, sometimes I find that the most comforting food for me is just to make a fresh made corn tortilla with some black beans that I just cook out of the pot and salsa, and that for me is like wow, heaven. It's comfort food. So some of the simplest meals that people still eat in the farms, but for me it's delicious. Maybe because I grew up with that, and the farm with my grandma also. That was a very common fare to eat fresh made tortillas, black beans, and salsa, and sometimes cheese, and it was good food, whole food, nothing processed or with a lot of fat or anything, because there is that misconception that everything we eat is fatty. But actually, no, it's Mexican food is whole foods. It just take maybe a little time to make some of the recipes, but it's just whole foods. We don't cook too much from cans or from packages.
You know, the problem with doing these shows about food is you're always hungry when you start listening to the show. But I wanted to tell you, well, first of all, because a lot of people, they'll listen to the show and they'll go, well, what does this have to do with God? Well, one of the very first things that Jesus did, you know, the first thing he did when he returned to his disciples is he broke bread. But the second thing you see him doing is cooking fish there on the shore and calling them and saying, come on, come eat. You know, so Jesus was a cook himself. But last night about 3 a.m, I got a phone call, so I was woke up, and so I started praying about this show. And one thing I always tell my wife is food and music can get you in any door in the world.
I never think about that. But yeah,
but it can. I'm over in Russia, and I start talking to them about their food. And you know what? Next thing, they're bringing me all the food over because people want to hear how much, you know, when someone's a good cook, they want to hear, hey, that they're enjoying it. And it opens doors. So what I heard for you was that you being a woman of God, he is going to put you with your food before kings. So I took that as that, you know, nowadays, how would we interpret that? That basically is he's going to put you before very important people, and your food is what is going to open that door. And basically, and I don't know how you believe or whether, so whether you're a Baptist or a Catholic or it doesn't really matter. He's telling you, pray like Mary did, and if you look in the book of Acts, basically Jesus told them, you wait until you're filled with the Spirit. And Jesus also said in the parable of Matthew the 25th chapter, he said, there's going to be 10 virgins, and 5 of the virgins are going to have the oil, and 5 will not have the oil. And if you read the parable, you see what happens to the 5 that don't have the oil, and what happens to the ones that have the oil. Well, the oil represents the Holy Spirit. So we go back to Acts, where he was telling Mary and the disciples and all them to wait until the oil that represents the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and then you will be prepared to go before these kings and go before these, important people with your food. So I'm just letting you know, God's launching you into something bigger than you ever thought of.
Now that you say that, I remember at Sunday school one day the pastor asked, if you were a part of the body of Jesus, what would you be? What part would you want it to be? And I say, I want to be a hand. And he said, why? Because I want to help. I want to teach, and I want to help. I want to help in anything I can do. And I started to be a teacher, and I like to teach little children. And I got married, and I had to leave that career because my husband's job moved him to different cities. But I always liked to teach. And so when I cook, when I write in my recipes in the blog, I try to explain in a way that people will learn, that they will be able to do it. And then a couple of weeks ago, I realized that's my calling, to teach. I'm teaching cooking. That's what I'm teaching. But I am also always tell the people, nourish your people, cook with real food, eat together, sit at the table, make it a moment just for you and your family. And now that you mention all that you were mentioning about Acts, and it's like I never related that to what I'm doing. But thank you for mentioning that.
Well, another thing is, just recently I was asking God, how do I get closer to you? So in this vision, he gives me this piece of bread and says, give this to your wife. And he said 2 things. He said union, and he said communion. And so my understanding was that, okay, so when I have communion with my wife, it basically brings in a union and then allows us to get closer. Well, but God's also saying when you get closer with your wife in union, you get closer to him. And then, I stuck it on Facebook, and a couple of people put some things that were even better, and I can't remember exactly how to say it, so I'm not going to say that part right now. But so, as you're teaching these, especially these children's, younger generation girls growing up, and like you said, and also saying, hey, go to your table, have the food at your table with your family, and the whole thing. I mean, that's just bringing them closer to God without even. You don't even have to say the name of Jesus, but you know what? It comes through you. They're going to see it coming through you. They're going to realize there's more there, and then they're going to eventually ask you, why? Why are you like this? Why are you teaching us this?
Yeah, I never connected all that to what I'm doing. But thank you for bringing that up, because I would really like to try to put more emphasis in it.
Totally different question now. Because most of the recipes are for about 8 people, when I cook things, and there's 2 of us here, we usually eat it maybe twice, But what do you say to freezing it in a really good container and bringing it out weeks later?
Well, there are many recipes that can be frozen. Many of the stews can be frozen. And what I do, because we also are a small family, and usually they are for 6, sometimes are for 8, the recipes for 8 people, but for 8 servings. Um, I use containers, and I also use divided. When I make it right away after it cools off, I divide it in containers, or I have one of those vacuum sealer machines where you vacuum seal the food. That way it lasts longer. It doesn't lose the flavor. And then I use it for tacos or for gorditas as a stuffing for other things. So
and
because sometimes
you have to be sure you mark them, because when they're in the freezer, they all look the same. But
I
really
mark them. I have one of those permanent markers, and I know the date and write the name of what it is inside, because once it goes inside the fridge, everything looks the same.
Yes, it does. But I've really found this was good, and we're able to bring it out and just have a new meal a few days or even weeks or even into a month later.
Yeah, it's almost the thing. Some of the dishes taste even better when you reheat them, like mole, like pozole, menudo, or some stews, especially the ones that have dry peppers. Those ones taste even better after the next day. The flavors are enhanced when you reheat them.
Well, that's interesting. Do you have a written cookbook?
No, people have been asking me. Now they don't ask me as often, but about 3 or 4 years, I think almost every single day, someone will send me an email or a message in Facebook asking, and I think they got tired of me. I tried to contact a publishing agency once, and they say that they will get back to me, and they never get back to me, and so I gave up. And then we moved we used to live in the Washington D.C. area, and we moved to Texas. So that was a big move for our family and a big change of everything. So I forgot about that. I didn't think about the book anymore.
Maybe with this interview that there'll be someone that hears that will be encouraged to maybe contact you, because a written cookbook, Mexico in My Kitchen, would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know people feel once in a time somebody says, do you have a cookbook? I'm like, no, I don't have a cookbook. You can go to the blog. All the recipes are there. And I still have a lot more recipes that I have a big to-do list of recipes that I make at home, but they take some time for me to write a recipe. It takes me a lot to write a recipe, because I want to be sure that when somebody read the recipe, understand all the instructions and is able to create it the same way. So that's what I am a little bit just low in that area.
Julie, do you have a comment?
The only thing I keep thinking is to go with the time. I don't know how the whole process would work, but I'm thinking, since you like to teach, why not an online class? Your son could be filming it, even live Facebook, where people could call. You could say, hey, I'm going to do this recipe at Friday at 6 Central Time. And any of you all that would like to join, have these products already. This is the recipe that we're going to do, and we're going to do it together.
Yeah, people have been asking me. Yeah, I got requests about that. But Facebook Live.
Because, if you got somebody in Sacramento, different places, they can't be where you're filming, but they can be where you're filming. You could do it together. So that's just something to ponder on. That's what I keep thinking on, is online classes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If that thing comes to mind, I've been thinking also about that, if people will be interested in that, because I know there are so many classes now going on, so many courses that people are taking about everything. Now there are courses for everything.
Well, what about even the movie Julia, and how she started blogging? And
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie, but I have heard that she started blogging about that.
But if you're already blogging, you could even start from right there in your blog. Hey, let me know who would be interested in wanting to do this together, and just see the response that you're getting that way.
That's a good idea. Thank you. I appreciate it, like a Facebook Live.
Yeah, you've got a real big blog. You've got a number of followers.
Yeah, well, it's going to be like this December, it's going to be 10 years. The blog is going to be 10 years old. It seems like yesterday, but it's taking some time.
Wow, that's every day?
No, some days I do photo editing. There is answer emails. A lot of people contact me. People contact me social media, Facebook, on Instagram, or by email. They answer questions about recipes or products, or where can they get the frying pan or the molcajete, or why the tortillas. Like this week, somebody sent me a message like 7 a.m. saying, please, when you have the time, call me. I need to know why my tortillas don't poof. So it takes some time. It takes time. I don't write every day. I do a lot of research. I have a large collection of books, Mexican cooking, a lot of vintage books from Mexico in Spanish. So when I write a recipe, I try to add a little bit of background about the history of the recipe, or about the town or the state where the recipe is done, because I know most of the people go straight to the recipe. But if somebody has the time and want to learn a little bit about Mexico, I always like to add a little bit of cultural background. So they take with them something besides the recipe. They say, oh, I learned something today. I learned that in Mexico is the number one producing avocado in the world, that the major customer is United States, or something like that.
I read your avocado ice cream recipe the other day. It is awesome. Todd began making some with a no sugar, like with a sweetener, a no calorie sweetener, for me a few months ago, and we put it in a little popsicle thing. So I look forward to that every time, and we become. It's awesome. You would never know.
Yes.
You never told the kids exactly what it was.
Yeah. In Mexico we make corn ice cream.
Oh, that's interesting.
Corn. Yeah, we make corn ice cream too. Yeah, we try to cook with the things we have at home, and we have a lot of corn in Mexico. So that's one of the things. I don't know why is not coming to America, that thing, but in Mexico there are places that you're gonna find avocado ice cream and corn ice cream, and they are really, especially the corn one is sweet, really sweet. Really tasty and creamy.
Is Todd still there? Oh, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Not really. Just listening. A very, very interesting show.
You'll be amazed when you get on and see all of her information and the awards and international, and she's nationally, internationally acclaimed cook. And we're looking forward to Wayne and I doing an interview in Spanish. We look forward to that. Thanks for taking the time for our interview, and we believe this program will spice up your cooking, and we're going to put all of her addresses, her websites, and they'll give you a wealth of information. Thank you for listening, and that is a wrap for Real Cup.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, this is Real Cuff, and I want to thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. YouTube completely removed our channel for a couple of years, but now we're back. Thank you.